With a premise that focuses on giant robots fighting to save the world against giant aliens, you wouldn't expect the narrative of Neon Genesis Evangelion to end in such ambiguity. Most fans know that it doesn't matter if you view the anime's final 2 episodes as canon, or if you consider the 1997 movie, End of Evangelion, to be the true ending, you're still going to be left scratching your head over what went down. Yet, at the heart of the series is a question firmly answered by both of the multiple endings. A question that many writers failed to ask before Neon Genesis Evangelion came along. And that question is it even worth it to save the world? Spoiler alert, yes, it is worth it to save the world. Or at least what's left of it. Coming to this conclusion wasn't easy for our 3 main protagonists, Shinji, Rei, and Asuka, the 14-year-old pilots of the super mecha robots known as Evas. On the surface, NERV created the Eva series to combat the threat of angels, giant extraterrestrial beings trying to reunite with the first of their kind. The first angel, Adam, was an extraterrestrial seed of life sent to Earth in prehistoric times by an unknown alien super race. Earth was meant to belong to Adam and Adam's descendants, the angels. Yet all life on Earth descends from Lilith, a second extraterrestrial seed of life accidentally sent to Earth at the same time. Since 2 seeds of life cannot coexist on one planet, Adam was put in suspended animation by the Spear of Longinus, while the children of Lilith, aka all life on Earth, were left to thrive. Fast forward to the year 2000 and humanity has discovered Adam in suspended animation, and like humans always do, they leave it alone, never to be seen again by human eyes. Just kidding. They begin meddling with something they don't understand, and their foolish experiments awaken Adam, the sleeping monster, along with the 15 angels he managed to create before Lilith's arrival. These descendants of Adam are now hell-bent on reuniting with the first of their kind so that they can wipe out humanity and finally become the dominant species on Earth. These 3 kids, Shinji, Rei, and Asuka, are the only things standing in their way, and Neon Genesis Evangelion forces us to contemplate the absurdity of this fact.
まさか初号機を使うつもりなの？他に道はないわ。ちょっと、レイはまだ動かせないでしょ？パイロットがいないわよ。さっき届いたわ。マジなの？
Unlike in other shows and movies where the adolescent heroes mostly enjoy their time saving the planet from annihilation or destruction, the children in Neon Genesis are miserable, lonely, depressed, and almost always ready to collapse under the pressure of keeping the world safe while piloting their Evas. NERV built the Eva series with the power to challenge the angels, yet 14-year-old kids are the only ones capable of piloting them, which is a far more clever reason than we're used to as to why kids are always saving the fucking world in these types of movies and shows. In the case of Neon Genesis Evangelion, the kids are indispensable. Each new angel attack poses a new and unique threat that Shinji and his fellow pilots must defeat before that specific angel can reach Adam. And while at times these triumphant victories offer our heroes genuine gratification, the darker and more disturbing moments are the ones that stick out in their minds. Horrifying images burned into the depths of their psyches, leaving permanent mental scars that only worsen as time goes on. Not to mention the physical costs also being paid by our young heroes, time and time again. It's what happens when you force children to carry out the responsibilities of adults at war, carrying immeasurable burdens that they don't even fully understand. Asuka tells Shinji they are fighting the angels because the angels attacked Earth. Simple as that. It's natural to defend yourself after being attacked. Yet the children aren't aware that every victory they secure is one step away from destruction by angels, and one step closer to annihilation by their superiors. The young Eva pilots believe they are fighting to save the world against angels, when in reality they are merely pawns in a far more sinister game. A fight between 2 shadowy government agencies, NERV and the group that controls NERV, SEAL. This connection is a reoccurring theme throughout the series, on a societal and personal level. SEAL's solution for fixing this disconnected society is something called the Human Instrumentality Project. To put it in simple terms, human instrumentality is the process of combining all of the world's souls into one being living inside of an Eva, specifically Unit 1. Points for creativity, I guess.
そのためのエヴァ。エヴァって何なんだろう。血の匂いがするエントリープラグ。なのに。
The Eva series was created by using the DNA of the angels, but they do not possess the unlimited source of energy found in all living angels, so they can only function with a power cable. Each battle against the 17 angels serves the purpose of evolving Eva Unit 1 to the point of having its own super solenoid engine, which would then make human instrumentality feasible.
違う。虚無へ帰るわけではない。すべてを始まりへ戻すに過ぎない。 この世界に失われている母へと帰るだけだ。すべての心が一つとなり、永遠の安らぎを得る。ただそれだけのことに過ぎない。
The folks at SEAL consider this plan to be the next step in human evolution. Still, at best, instrumentality is an unsettling excuse for stripping every person of their rights to free will and self-determination. And at worst, it's global genocide. On the other hand, Akari, the leader of NERV, plans to channel his inner Orpheus by using human instrumentality to reunite with his dead wife Yui, inside of Unit 1. Again, points for creativity, but I'm not sure this is the healthiest response for fixing a world you helped destroy.
ぬるいな。ああ。
The disastrous second impact caused by SEAL's hubris trapped the world in an endless summer, where the never-ending sounds of cicadas chirping serve as daily reminders that the autumn breeze will never return. A hell on earth, where those responsible are tormented for their sins by angels instead of demons. We may not fully understand what human instrumentality is from a philosophical standpoint, but we can understand why SEAL and Akari are obsessed with it from a personal one. They have broken the world to a point where they believe the world is beyond repair, and they are ready to initiate instrumentality to bring this world back together by any means necessary. An important lesson always taught by adults to children is that they must learn their history to avoid the mistakes of those who came before them. But Shinji, Rei, and Asuka are never made aware of these mistakes until the very end. Throughout the series, they find themselves in the dilemma of answering for their parents' sins while not knowing for sure if they will make those same tragic mistakes because they don't even know what those mistakes were. But in the end, human instrumentality is rejected by our young heroes. Perhaps this is why 14-year-old kids are the only ones capable of piloting Evas. In the hands of tormented adults, the power of the gods means global genocide. But in the hands of children, the power of the gods means giving people a choice. The choice to re-establish personal connections the old-fashioned way, rather than combining your soul inside of a fucking robot with everybody else's soul in a sea of orange goo for the rest of eternity. Instead of that messy scenario, let people embrace the hedgehog's dilemma with the understanding that our connections make us who we are as individuals. It's a lesson the adults in the room have seemingly forgotten, or no longer believe is possible, especially Akari, who abandons his son believing that Shinji could never love him as a father. These broken individuals like Akari believe that humanity has lost too much after the second impact ever to be whole again, that the world will never recover from SEAL's catastrophic mistakes. But the world has recovered, something we learn time and time again in Shinji's middle school history class. The lesson taught by Shinji's teacher is the only lesson we ever see throughout the series, a lesson that focuses on humanity's continued recovery. This repeating history lesson is met with the same apathetic stares commonly found in a middle school classroom, demonstrates a generational gap between those who lived during the second impact and those who came after it. Shinji and his classmates never knew the world as it was, so they will never honestly know who and what humanity lost. In contrast, nostalgia and trauma will forever haunt those who lived during the second impact. It's not surprising that Shinji and his classmates aren't as willing to give up on the only world they've ever known. Children can hold on to things like hope and faith for far longer than adults, especially adults at war. It's simply more difficult for children to view the glass as half empty when they didn't witness how that came to be. Meanwhile, the generation represented by Akari and SEAL not only considers the glass as half empty, but they're ready to shatter it into tiny pieces. Luckily for the world, Shinji, Rei, and Asuka can still see that glass as half full. At their lowest points, Shinji, Rei, and Asuka often consider giving in to the idea of losing yourself into a sea of nothingness. It's true they aren't nostalgic for the world that existed before the second impact, but this new world hasn't necessarily been a walk in the park. They didn't live during the apocalypse, but they are living with the repercussions. Giving up on the world at times is enticing to our young heroes. A domino effect where if these kids had given up on themselves, the world as a whole would have fallen with them. And it's not in the sense of giving up on their fight because they don't feel they can physically defeat the angels. Their fight is a personal one, a fight inward, a battle of self-reflection that ultimately finds them victorious by the end of the series. There are 3 key moments in which Shinji, Rei, and Asuka win these personal battles. The critical moments in which they once again believe in themselves enough to reject human instrumentality, or at least play a contributing role in making that decision possible. Like Asuka, who discovers the soul of her estranged mother living inside of her Eva. As weird as it sounds, it provides Asuka the strength and confidence to fight off the dummy Evas, buying enough time for NERV to save Shinji and Rei, the 2 catalysts for rejecting instrumentality. Rei's betrayal of Akari afforded Shinji the choice to accept or reject human instrumentality. After merging with Adam, Rei became the lock on the door that would determine humanity's fate, with Shinji, inside of Unit 1, acting as the key, the ultimate decider on whether to save the world or let it die. Shinji emerges from the orange goo container like a young Andy Dufresne with a new lease on life, rejecting the painless nothingness of instrumentality in favor of a life of pain and suffering, otherwise known as a life with other people. The relationships forged by Shinji throughout his time as an EVA pilot helped him understand the importance of his own life in the eyes of those around him, people who he grew to care about immensely. For all his self-doubt and hopelessness, Shinji has finally overcome the hedgehog's dilemma by realizing that his life does in fact matter. In Episode 1, Shinji refuses to pilot EVA Unit 1 and is relieved by the arrival of Rei, the pilot of Unit 0. He no longer feels responsible for saying no because he feels he is no longer needed, or was never needed in the first place. At this point in his life, Shinji is unaware that no child on Earth is more capable of piloting an EVA than he is. It makes him unique. It makes him who he is. It's a trait that solely belongs to him. So at this moment, he is the only one on Earth who can win this fight. Usually it takes pilots months to synchronize with their EVAs, but for Shinji, it only takes an afternoon. Throughout the series, Shinji gradually comes to appreciate the sum total of all the many different parts that make him who he is as an individual. Of course, Shinji's path towards self-actualization would not have been possible without his guardian, Misato Katsuragi, the operations director at NERV, who, like Shinji, lives with the burden of her father's legacy. Her father led the expedition that eventually caused the second impact, yet unlike those leading SEAL and NERV, Misato isn't ready just yet to give up on the world. Not only does she give her life for Shinji in the literal sense, but she also demonstrates her faith in Shinji by taking him on as a guardian. Building the bond between a mother and son wasn't easy since it was new for them both, and that's to say nothing of Asuka's arrival on the scene. Misato may not have been the perfect guardian to these two young kids, but for all the imperfections of their family dynamic, Shinji manages to learn what it means to be a part of a family, and what it means to have a place called home. Even after he moves in with Misato, makes friends at school, or grows closer to his fellow EVA pilots, Shinji struggles to realize the value in his own life. It doesn't matter how awesome Shinji is as an EVA pilot or how good he is at playing cello, he resents the responsibilities of being an adult or being a hero, and would often quit NERV only to rejoin when faced with a life or death situation, which in my opinion represents a hero in the purest sense. Shinji fought strictly for the lives of those he loved, in contrast to his father Ikari, who was willing to sacrifice anyone and everyone to reunite with the love that he lost. For all their cold bitterness towards one another, Shinji and his father are suffering from the same thing, a fear of intimacy. Ikari is so fucked up that he feels the only way he can fix this problem is by reuniting with his dead wife inside of a robot. You see, Yui was the engineer responsible for creating the EVA series, but was killed in a freak accident that left her soul trapped inside of Unit 1. Her death left Shinji without a mother, and essentially without a father. The significant difference between Shinji's father and mother is that Yui never lost her hope in or love for humanity, even after losing so much. Like the children who can still see the glass as half full, Yui believed that as long as humans were still alive, there was hope to rebuild. A sentiment now lost on her husband Ikari, and never passed down to her son Shinji. Ikari loses all faith in humanity after the death of his wife, and more tragically, he loses faith in himself as a father. It is why Shinji fears every level of personal intimacy. It's not that he didn't have a mother figure growing up, but that he didn't have someone to instill a sense of hope in him that comes with being loved by another person. Before his tragic and untimely death, the 17th angel Kaworu tries to share these sentiments of love and hope for humanity with Shinji to some success. Shinji tells Misato that Kaworu is the first person in his life to ever tell Shinji that he loves him, demonstrates how cold the people of this world have become. It finally appears that Shinji is ready to embrace the idea of accepting others into his heart, until he is forced to literally crush any hope he had for intimacy with his bare hands. Shinji's murder of Kaworu is his breaking point, and at the beginning of End of Evangelion, it appears he is ready to give up on the world and die. In the end, this long-lost sentiment of hope is finally passed down to Shinji by none other than Rei Ayanami, the adolescent clone of Shinji's mother. Like Shinji, Rei often struggled to see the value in her own life, and in the case of Rei, it's probably even more understandable. By the time End of Evangelion starts, Rei has already died twice. This version of Rei is the third version of her clone self, a clone made from the DNA of both Yui Ikari and Lilith. Ikari plans to combine both the seeds of Adam and Lilith, a forbidden act that will bring upon instrumentality, and Rei is the key to this plan. Rei always knew there was a reason Ikari kept bringing her back from the dead, but why should that reason matter to Rei in these final moments? Why should she sacrifice everyone else so that Ikari can reunite with Yui? Why should she continue to listen and obey Ikari's commands even after forging her own identity? By the time Rei 3 has returned from the dead, she is aware of the impact her previous clones had on others. Her identity is no longer that of a pawn in Ikari's game, and it doesn't matter if the third version of Rei isn't the same Rei that fought side by side with Shinji and Asuka. In Shinji's heart and Asuka's heart, she is the same Rei Ayanami. The show talks about this often. the idea that different versions of yourself exist in the hearts and minds of those around you. Rei 3 appears in front of Shinji with a few bandages and bruises, nothing out of the ordinary, so naturally, he doesn't suspect anything suspicious. This is his Rei Ayanami. Rei's acceptance of this reality in her own mind is what leads her to betray Akari. She is no longer following Akari's path. Instead, she is following the path she has forged through the experiences of her past clones. The poetry of Rei putting her faith in Shinji while also being a clone of Shinji's mother Yui cannot be ignored. Rei's connection to Yui certainly plays a role in her bond with Shinji, but their relationship was nurtured throughout the series, through the battles they fought and won, and the time they spent together. Their bond grows so vital to the point where synchronization with each other's Eva units becomes second nature, something that shouldn't even be possible. Essentially, we've got two traumatized teenagers who can very much relate to every aspect of the other's life, without even speaking. A bond this strong is something that Akari became incapable of forming with other people, specifically his son Shinji. Rei puts her trust in Shinji without truly knowing what he will decide, whether if he will accept or reject instrumentality. She puts her faith in him, and it's the same faith Yui talked about with Futsuki. The belief that as long as humans live, there is hope, an idea that Yui never got the chance to pass down to her son. Yet here we have Rei, the clone of Shinji's mother, putting her faith in Shinji like Yui once put her faith in humanity. Akari could never anticipate the betrayal of Rei Ayanami because it was something that Rei Ayanami could only decide for herself. Her experiences, the relationship she has forged, and the nature of her DNA led her to become the person she is in this moment. Akari believed that Rei, and those working under him at NERV, were following the path he had carefully laid out for them, without realizing that every step of this plan brought these disconnected souls closer to one another. In the case of Rei Ayanami, Akari's plans for the young clone blow up in his face. Rei's betrayal of Akari is an unconventional hero moment, in which the hero wins by finally accepting the value in her own life and identity. Rei Ayanami finally knows who she is, so she is unwilling to give that up. Before Rei betrays Akari and Shinji rejects instrumentality, Asuka also manages to break free of her trauma, which in turn buys her fellow Eva pilots enough time to come to these crucial decisions. Watching Asuka annihilate the dummy Evas during the End of Evangelion may be the most satisfying traditional heroic moment I've ever witnessed. Unlike Shinji and Rei, whose feelings of self-doubt and insecurity come and go at random, Asuka's journey inward is more of a gradual descent towards utter despair and loneliness. Getting to this moment for Asuka was absolute hell. So watching it play out usually brings me to tears every time I watch it. At first, Asuka appears as a contrast to Shinji's introverted and shy personality. She is more of a traditional hero, extroverted and relentless, always smiling during a fight. In comparison, Shinji breaks that trope by being shy and indecisive, always looking for an excuse not to fight. But the character of Asuka is also written to break that trope, albeit in a more subtle way. Through Asuka's journey, we see what happens when a hero places all of their self-worth on their ability or inability to save the world. Asuka believes that being an Eva pilot is the only thing that gives her life meaning. She carries herself with unbridled confidence, yet underneath all the swagger and charisma is a 14-year-old girl with severe abandonment issues. She throws herself entirely into being an Eva pilot, and she is damn good at it too. But her confidence is gradually shattered after being introduced to the third children, Shinji. At first glance, Asuka is the more advanced pilot, and often wonders to herself why Shinji receives special treatment. But she quickly learns that Shinji's natural abilities will eventually see him surpass Asuka as a pilot. And what frustrates her the most is that Shinji doesn't even seem to care. Asuka puts all her self-worth into being an Eva pilot, whereas Shinji constantly tries to brush off his incredible achievements. No longer being able to synchronize with her Eva sends Asuka spiraling into a deep depression. It's heartbreaking to watch as Asuka's inability to synchronize opens the deep-seated wounds of being abandoned by her mother, which we learn is the driving force behind her relentless nature. She believed being a successful pilot would make others love and appreciate her in the way that her mother never did. So at first glance, Asuka is everything a hero is supposed to be. Intelligent, pretty, strong, and unfazed by the pressures of saving the world. But deep down, she is fighting so desperately for something that will forever be lost to her. Or so she believes. Like Shinji's mother Yui, Asuka's mother died when Asuka was only a child. And like Yui, she was an engineer who died during a freak accident while working on the Eva series. Yui's death left her entire soul trapped inside Unit 1, but in the case of Asuka's mother, only half of her soul was trapped, this time inside Unit 2. The other half returned to the physical world, thus Asuka's mother became a shell of her former self, to the point of no longer being able to tell the difference between a doll and her own daughter. Like Shinji, Asuka was never made aware of the truth of her mother's accident, so naturally she blames herself. The only truth Asuka knows is that her mother was more interested in a doll than her own flesh and blood.
聞こえるアスカ。シンクロ率8も低下よ。 いつも通り余計なことは考えずやってるわよ。
Asuka believes people will finally love her as an Eva pilot in the same way that her mother never did, and then gradually begins to crash under the weight of these expectations. Asuka's perception of what it means to be loved has become warped by these crippling feelings of abandonment and insecurity. Even though Asuka craves to be loved, she disparages all forms of intimacy that aren't sexual. During the attack on Nerve headquarters, Asuka once again finds herself in Unit 2 after being grounded for weeks. Misato is aware that Asuka can no longer synchronize with Unit 2, but sends her to the lake's bottom for her own protection. Here, Asuka has hit rock bottom in both the literal and figurative sense. In these final moments before her death, Asuka comes to the ultimate realization, arguably the most forgivable deus ex machina in fictional history, that the soul of her mother was trapped inside of Unit 2 this entire time. Every fight won by Asuka in Unit 2 was won with her mother's protection in the form of Unit 2's AT field, an energy barrier that protects both Evas and Angels while fighting. The strength of an Eva's AT field depends on the pilot's synchronization level, so at this moment, aware of the presence of her mother's soul, Asuka is nearly invincible. She isn't fighting for the love and admiration of others, but fighting because she doesn't want the world to end. She is fighting for her friends at Nerve, trying to buy Shinji and Rei enough time. Fighting for the mother who was never there for her physically, but was there spiritually inside of Unit 2. In Episode 9, Moment and Heart Together, Shinji and Asuka must defeat the Angelus Pharrell by attacking it simultaneously. Only the two of them in perfect harmony can defeat it. While they cannot seem to match their steps at first, they eventually become fully synchronized after spending more and more time together, something that Akari and Seal thought humanity was no longer capable of doing. We watch Shinji and Asuka willingly work through the growing pains of building a bond built on friendship and trust, a bond necessary to defeat this specific angel attack. It foreshadows the decisions they both come to when faced with instrumentality, and how Asuka's fight against the dummy Evas will eventually inspire Shinji to reject it. Characters like Misato and Ritsuko represent the generation caught in the middle of this fight, centering around instrumentality. They are both forced to live under the harsh legacies of their parents, while also grappling with the roles they themselves played in bringing about this current predicament. Needless to say, it weighs heavily on their minds. Misato, a character who already felt conflicted about her role in fighting with Nerve, was never made privy to Akari and Seal's plans. She considers her reasons to be misguided at best, and grows to hate herself because of it. After becoming disillusioned with their fight against the Angels, Misato sets out to learn the true intentions of both Nerve and Seal. A character like Kaji, who dies trying to uncover the truth for himself, shows the length these characters are willing to go to learn the truth of what they are fighting for, and his unceremonious death demonstrates how the pawns in this game are used and quickly discarded by the major players. Ritsuko also suffers a similar fate at the hands of Akari, who uses, abandons, and then kills the young scientist. Being kept in the dark by Akari allows Misato to take on the role of guardian, and though she isn't perfect, she does try her best, and that's the essential characteristic of the employees at Nerve. Characters like Misato, Ritsuko, and Kaji are all just trying to do the best with the hand they were dealt, even if they don't know what cards they are holding. By the end of this fight, it's not clear if they were fighting for the right side, or if the right side even exists. Still, they put their faith in the young Eva pilots, essentially putting their faith in the future of humanity, rather than giving in to Seal's plans for instrumentality.
何のためにここに来たのか、何のためにここにいるのか、今の自分の答えを見つけなさい。そして、ケリをつけたら、必ず戻ってくるのよ。
In the end, we learn that the 15 descendants of Adam, otherwise known as angels, are merely different variations of humanity. Human beings are the 18th angel, the children of the seed of Lilith, incompatible with the children of Adam. The fight between Nerve and the angels is similar to the wars had between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens thousands of years ago. It's the heartbreaking truth behind the fight between Nerve and the angels, two versions of the same being simply trying to survive against its own extinction and destruction. But Seal and Nerve believe that the children of Lilith are not only incompatible with the children of Adam, but are incompatible with one another, that human beings can no longer forge the connections necessary for their species to survive. That's why they want humanity to evolve through human instrumentality, combining all of the souls of the world inside of Unit 1. The choice for Shinji, Rei, and Asuka is clear. Save the world, or die, by becoming one with everyone else. A world where people no longer exist as individuals. A world without pain. It's why Shinji's first instinct after emerging from instrumentality is to choke Asuka. He wants to make sure that she can feel pain, and that he can feel something too. Through their actions, all three of our main characters answer the question, is it even worth it to save the world, with a resounding, Yes, it is worth it to save the world, no matter how much that world and the people living in it have lost. There is always hope for humanity, as long as people are still living. And thank you guys for watching this video essay. It's been a long time coming, years in the making, quite literally. And hey, it's a complicated show, you know, I needed some time to gather my thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you leave your comments down below. It's definitely a series that warrants conversation, theories, and ideas, and what you took away from this giant puzzle that is Neon Genesis Evangelion. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like it, share it, subscribe, and we'll be back with more anime reviews in the near future. Full Metal Alchemist, man. We're reviewing the GOATs. We're doing all the GOAT animes. Maybe Cowboy Bebop's next. 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
Damn, we were making some good points in that video. Hey guys, Aaron the Nerd Suit Monkey here. Before we end this video, I want to give a quick shout out to our Patreon supporters. What can I say about you guys that I haven't already said about myself? You are the most important part of the channel and the main reason we keep going strong. Like Beau says, you keep the lights on in the fridge so the fridge is full. Or something like that. So, from everyone here at Nerd Soup, I'd like to thank you guys for your continued support. If you're interested in joining the ranks of our Patreon supporters, head over to patreon.com/nerdsoup and check out the rewards we offer to our patrons. We recently dropped some new stickers for you guys to check out, or you could choose a tier that will allow you to select a movie, show, or video game for us to review. We've got a full slate of fan-suggested reviews coming your way, and we're really excited about the chance to review some of those movies and shows. We've also got t-shirts, mugs, behind-the-scenes videos showing how we bring our videos to life. And once again, thank you to all our Patreon pledgers who have been supporting us throughout the years. Without you, we wouldn't be able to convert all your pledges into cryptocurrency, so thank you from my future self for making us rich.